Hello and welcome to the Autofocus Show. We have come to Bangalore to ride the new Ather 450X. Yes, you can't see much of a difference here versus what's already on the road, but this one here is Gen 3 and the company says that it is pretty much all new and it is a new generation, though the design is identical to the current Ather 450X. Now, that said, the Ather 450X's design is not dated, it's still fresh, it is still one of the slimmer, sexier, sort of more modern electrics out there. Even as it was born in 2018, it was a e-scooter that delivered that design language and that youthful spirit that is retained. Yet there's a lot that's gone on inside that is new. Ather's officials say that the company was a divided house when discussing this aspect about whether the Gen 3 should be a different design or should retain the original. Of course, a lot of the customers are in love with the Ather the way it looks right now, and same is the case with a lot of the company officials. They are very, very keen on retaining the design and the way it is because there is really nothing much that is out of place in the Ather that is already on the streets, the Gen 2. So the Gen 3 is identical. There has only been the addition of a side step, which has been integrated very carefully, not to alter the aesthetics too much. And of course, I am sure a little bit of aero considerations were also right there. So the scooter is still a compact, very sporty, youthful scooter that sits nicely within you, and it's very easy to ride and at the same time stands out on the streets. And an electric scooter needs that bit of design differentiation, and that's what this delivers. One of the features that is different in the Ather 450X Gen 3, of course, are these rear view mirrors. These have been changed to offer 2x more visibility at the rear, and of course they look better. They have been apparently integrated better. If you are an Ather owner currently using the Gen 2, you can be sure that you can make those changes. You can replace your current rear view mirrors with these ones, which are better looking, apparently integrated better, and offer more visibility. Like I said, the chassis, the design of the Ather 50X Gen 3 remains unchanged. There have been very, very minor modifications that have been made. Overall, fit and finish quality is good. There are places though where the plastic quality could have been better. There is certain finish levels that could have been certainly different. For example, the charging socket cap is still fairly rudimentary in terms of the finish. It still is not loaded with a spring clip, which then means that you have to manually open and shut it. Sometimes you might end up forgetting it. That is an issue. The other thing that is still missing in the Ather 50X Gen 3 is the center stand. It still only uses a side stand, which then means that there is the higher risk of it getting nicked, dented, scratched in tight parking spots. Also, you might find it more difficult to park it in public spaces where the amount of space it takes with a side stand is more than it would with a center stand. So the other change in the Ather 450X Gen 3 is the set of tires that it gets. These are 12-inch tires, but they are completely new in the sense they've been co-developed with MRF. The compound is new, and of course it gets a wider rear tire, which is now a 180/12, and instead of the 90/90/12 that was in the previous Ather. Now this tire is supposed to offer 25% more grip. It is contact patch is larger, and yet it is, according to Ather, doesn't affect the range. It does feel grippier into the corners. It does offer a lot more, especially wet road assistance, and it is clearly a tire that has been focused on delivering the performance that the Ather needs. Let me also add that this gets the addition of tire pressure monitoring, a key factor that could affect the range and your ride quality. Ather wants to emphasize the fact that the tire pressure monitor is integrated into the tire. It's theft proof, so you don't have to worry about it getting pilfered. The other aspect that they do want to emphasize is the fact that your range could be affected by as much as 20%, and this is going to help you gain nearly 18% more range with the possibility of you focusing on the tire pressure, something you may miss out because it's an electric and you don't really go to a fuel pump to fuel up, and so you don't necessarily focus on going and getting your tire pressure checked often. The heart of the matter for the Ather 450X Gen 3 is, of course, the battery pack. That is the big change. It now gets a battery pack which is 25% larger in capacity, of course, offers a longer driving range, and it is now a 3.7 kilowatt hour battery pack instead of the 2.9 kilowatt hour battery pack that the Gen 2 had. Now, this larger battery pack, Ather officials say, is also better because it is thermal management is better, it is able to handle the load better, it can sort of deliver consistent performance, and it is now packed into the same area that the previous battery pack used to be located in. And it's now 25% more efficient too, is what Ather says. Now, what is it really in terms of performance on road for you as a rider that is going to take it out? So the battery pack is a 3.7 kilowatt hour battery pack that is now capable of delivering certified range of 146 kilometers or true range of about 105 kilometers peak range. That is, if you were to be driving in the new Smart Eco mode, that's the kind of range you can expect. More realistic riding range of about 85 kilometers in ride mode should be easily achievable. Now the battery pack is packed into this aluminum alloy casing, and Ather engineers tell me that they've had to move the mounts forward a bit because of the larger battery pack, and the scooter itself is about 5 kgs heavier. But other than that, not much in terms of changes to the structure that has been required. In terms of riding modes, it used to have an eco, sport, ride and warp mode. Now it gets the Smart Eco, Ride, Sport and the Warp mode. The Warp mode being the fastest in terms of acceleration, is capable of delivering 0 to 40 in 3.3 seconds. The general performance overall is very similar to the Gen 2, but yet you do have the back of mind comfort factor with a longer riding range. The motor, of course, continues to remain the same as in the Gen 2. The motor is capable of delivering a continuous power output of about 3.3 kilowatt and a peak power output of about 6 kilowatt. That does change if it's the Ather 450 Plus, which in the Gen 3 version also continues to deliver 3.3 kilowatt and 5.4 kilowatt as its peak power output. Top speed remains 80 kilometers per hour. Acceleration, like I said, is better with the Gen 3, and it is also possible to get true range in eco mode of about 85 kilometers for the Ather 450 Plus, which is the lower spec of the two electric scooters. Ather is saying they're going to be increasing the number of experience centers that they have around the country. It is going to be growing exponentially, but what is going to be growing even more exponentially is their fast charging grid that Ather is setting up. It is choosing wisely with an eye on the kind of footfalls that people will have and the places where the average Ather owner will be frequenting. So do expect more Ather fast charging grids around the country in your neighborhood. The new Gen 3 gets a 15 kilometer charge in about 10 minutes if you were to be using the fast charging infrastructure of Athers. If you were to be charging it at home, the battery can get a 0 to 80% charge in about 4.5 hours and a 0 to 100% charge in about 5 hours and 40 minutes. The Ather 450X Gen 3 that I rode has gotten an upgrade for its UI. The user interface is smoother now thanks to a larger 2 GB RAM and 16 GB of storage. The screen itself continues to be the 7-inch TFT LED backlit capacitive touch screen. The user interface also is only been marginally tweaked, but what it does get is twice the amount of RAM capacity, and that makes the interface a little smoother. And of course, it opens up a lot of possibilities for the future where stuff like voice commands, offline maps, and multiple other, including richer graphics, all of this can come together to offer a much better user experience. Of course, right now, none of that is available, but a lot of this could simply be one over the air update away. I've just come back after riding the Ather 450X Gen 3 to about 55 kilometers or so, which is the average two-day commute for the e-scooter buyer. The general impression I'm getting after this ride is that on the road, this feels very similar to the Gen 2. There's a little bit of improvement in the ride quality from the new tires, certainly a lot more grip, and it feels more confident taking corners and turns. But overall, the ride quality is very similar, and I would have really liked the ride quality to be a tad less firm. The setup is firmer than I would have liked, but the other factors that are going to be the reason why the average e-scooter buyer is going to choose the Ather 450X Gen 3 are important, and for sure range is going to be a big factor. Range anxiety is a real thing, and this larger battery capacity and the longer distances that it then affords is a big reason why you should be looking at the new 450X. Prices haven't been announced yet as we do this test ride, but expect prices to be a little higher than it was for the Gen 2. But my guess is they still want to price this aggressively, and it still is a great scooter for the average e-scooter buyer. It's sporty, has its youthful looks, and delivers on key parameters like the driving range and the ride quality. The new UI and the embedded electronics that's going to help it are other reasons why this is going to be future-proofed and capable of delivering new features in the future.